Hello again, it's Elizabeth. I'm over here in my art loft and I wanted to share with you some jelly prints that I've been doing and to try to do a process print where I recreate it. This one I created about 3 days ago and some friends of mine really liked it. I really liked it too, and I tried to recreate it, but this is actually the one that I got as the second or ghost print from that one. And if you look at this, it's still got some really pretty things in it. I mean, it's got a lot of shine in there. Okay, so the next day, I tried again, and this is what I came up with. It's got a lot more red, and it seems like less gold, but when you look at it, kind of move it around, you can see it. It's really hard to take pictures of these things with just a still camera. Much easier to see it if you've got it moving a little bit. This was the ghost print from that. And I really don't like that much because it kind of looks like I jiggled it when I was picking it up. Okay, I even tried it in some other colors. And this one is the teal and purple, and then the gold to pick it up. And so this is a different stencil, obviously, but you can do it in other colors than the ones that I've been trying. Okay, so then the next day I tried it again just to make sure it wasn't a fluke and that I'd somehow gotten a great print a couple of times and never again. And this is the one that I love because I love how it has a lot more different colors, different like print lines in there than it did on the other one. So I'm going to show you how I did this, and hopefully you can do one too. And there's another ghost print from another one. Okay, shall we get started? Let me make sure I've got those so they don't fall off. The first thing that you have to do is have your jelly plate, of course. Oh, and this was a print that I picked up on plain paper, which I didn't bring my plain paper over, but I'll be able to do that later because we have to wait for a while after the first layer is on there. And that's the hardest part of this, is waiting for that first layer to get to the tackiness and dryness that we want it to be. Today for my first layer I'm using Lascaux PerlAcryls. This is the turquoise. Beautiful color. It's a metallic. I'm using Ceramcoat by Delta Opaque Red, and I'm using Extreme Sheen by Deco Arts. It's Extreme Sheen 24 karat gold, and this is the goldest gold you'll get that I've seen anyway. There may be other ones out there, but that's the most gold that there is. Okay, so we start with our turquoise, and I put about a $50 size thing on there, and if you are not from the US you might not know what $50 is, but it's about a little bit bigger than a quarter, and you might not know what a quarter is, but it's about that size. How's that? Like about 1.5 inches across that circle. You can tell because of the grid line on my whatever you call that, art mat. Okay, so we're simply going to spread that out in one nice even coat. Sometimes it's harder to do it when you're filming because you're under the lights, and the lights do give off some heat, and they do dry your paint sometimes before you want them to. But we've got pretty good coverage here today, it looks like. Got a nice thin coat. Don't want any more lines than we have to have in it. And I usually make some kind of a pattern in it. Today I'm using what you put under your rug to keep your rug from slipping. So it's a little grid of plasticky stuff that I just make sure it has good contact with the paint by just rolling lightly over it. I'm not really rolling heavy. If I rolled heavy, then I would probably either scooch it, technical terminology there, or I would be picking up paint from the bottom layer on my brayer, and I don't want to do either of those things. So we wait for a few seconds to let that, it doesn't really absorb the paint, it just kind of collects the paint onto it. And then I'm going to go wash that while my plate dries, And you guys get to sit here and watch it dry, unless I can figure out in my video editing how to speed that up. And hopefully I can, because if I can't, it's kind of annoying. But you can see the lovely grid pattern that I get on that. And I'll be right back. Okay, have we dried sufficiently? No, not quite, so we'll give it a little more air. This is a lovely fan that I picked up at Tuesday morning. It was whole, no, actually it was at Dollar Tree. It was a whole $1. That's why I know it was Dollar Tree, because it was a whole $1 is how much it cost. We just want it so that it doesn't come up when we put our next layer on. Our next layer, of course, is the red. That's still a little, nope, not there on the edge. Let's try right there. Yep, still a little sticky. So we might want to wait just a little longer there. Fan, 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 fan. Give it just a little more, just a little more. Okay, put my fan over here, and we have our lovely red to put on there. So we haven't taken anything off this plate yet. We've just put down our blue. Well, we have. We took off the grid, but you could have just had a solid blue if you wanted. You didn't have to take off that. Come on, red. Wait a minute. Let me go get my papers while I'm waiting. Because then it'll give it just that second more to dry. Okay, ta-da, second more to dry is good stuff. Yeah, okay. So we just put a little bit of that red out there, if it'll come down to the end like it's supposed to. And how much do we want to put out? Well, you guessed it, about a $50 worth, so about 1.25 inches across. That might not be quite that much, but now I dip my brayer in it when I'm putting it on there, because I've found that if the stuff in the background is a little bit tacky, sometimes when you roll your brayer over there dry, it can pick up that stuff in the background, and you definitely don't want to pick that up now. You want to get this red on there first, and then we'll be picking it up. Okay, get there in the middle where you're supposed to be. Okay. Okay, that looks lovely. Now this blue is showing, but the blue is, it actually has the red in between those little blue spots, so that's perfectly a-okay. Now we're going to put down our stencil, which is from iStencil. And it's number 050031 RSC. And I guess SC stands for scroll. And this is one of their wall type stencils. When I get their stencils, I have to, even though I picked the 18-inch one, I have to go through and cut out little bits that would be in there to show the repeat pattern for using it on the wall. Now what I'm doing now is just using an old print and putting this on the other side of it, because I'm not going to do anything with what I'm picking up now. What I'm mainly picking up is from the holes, I'm picking up the red so that the blue will be there, and any red that's on the bottom layer will be there too. And you can see I didn't get a whole lot from there. I got a couple with the little blue and the little bits of red there, and this was already on it, this other grid. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my stencil. Actually, yes. And it takes a lot of the stuff off that was on. My stencil looks pretty, doesn't it? Unfortunately, you can't get that off of there. Very annoying. I've tried it several different ways, and nope, no deal. So now I'm going to put my gold on there as soon as that red dries. The red takes a little while to dry. We'll go back to our fan a little bit. The hardest part of gel printing is to, number 1, make sure you don't put on too much paint. Number 2, make sure you wait for things to dry that need to dry before you put on the next amount of paint. And number 3, sometimes photographing the stuff is hard. But we won't worry about that. Okay, gold. Extreme Sheen by Deco Arts. And I know it's not dry there, but I'm just going to go for it anyway and see if we can get it. Even though we really shouldn't do it yet. Like I said, waiting for it to dry is the hardest part. How much are we putting on? About that much. Wetting our brayer. Teasing that out so that it doesn't pick up from the plate onto the brayer. And I'm spreading it out all over the plate. And we will get some mixing, a little bit mixing over here because we did not wait till that red dried. But you want a very nice thin layer for this print. Other prints you might want something heavier, but for this one you want a really nice thin even layer, and that's a little too thick, so we're going to roll off a little bit of that and then come back and take a little bit off. And to take it off, you just let your brayer, the weight of the brayer there, and you just go over it again. And we can take off just a smidge more. I think on this corner, looks like it's the most. Got to be careful with this. If you're taking it off, sometimes you can get it down to the layers and it'll start coming up on your brayer. Again, the most annoying thing. Okay. Dispose of that. Now we're ready. So we're going to put our stained stencil back down. We're going to offset it. Actually, I think I'm going to try it the other way, upside down. That may be what I did for that beautiful print. And then I'm going to take off some of that paint. I'm going to use this garbage print again. Just to get that first layer of paint off so that I can get to the bottom layer. You see that there's still plenty there. I got a little bit of the gold. And I'm going to use my tracing paper. This is tracing paper from Hobby Lobby. It comes in a 15 by 17, I think is the size of the actual paper. And what's really nice is when you're pushing tracing paper or deli paper or onion skin paper onto your stencil, you can see what it's picking up because the paint, you can see through the jelly paper or the tracing paper or the whatever. When you're doing the other paper, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes as to what's coming up. And I think I'm getting most of the gold and not so much of the stuff underneath. You'll peek. Getting a little bit, so we'll go a little bit more. You want to make sure that you kind of go around in a circle and make sure that you get down into the littlest bits of that stencil. Sometimes what I do is stick something that I've got handy on a corner so that it doesn't roll up, because this will try to roll up on itself, and if it does, It's gonna make a mess. Make sure we get all those little bits. Even if this comes up totally gold, it'll still be pretty cool. And if it doesn't come up totally gold, which I don't think I took up enough with that other sheet of paper, but we'll see. That looks good for that. And that's not too bad. Got a lot of it that's just plain gold, but we did get a lot that was more than just gold. And now I want to take up one more time with another piece of tracing paper the rest of what's there. Let's see if we can get any more. We might or might not. But sometimes you can get all those gold edges if you really push that down in there. So we have to really work it with our fingers down into all of those little spots. And I apologize, I do have you on the table with me, so as I'm working this down into the little spots, you are getting jostled a little bit. If you are seasick, please wait and close your eyes and I'll tell you when you can look. I don't want anybody getting sick on me. That would be terrible if I was to do that. So what I'm doing is pushing down really well on this to get as much of that gold paint from the very edges of the stencils onto my paper. And let's see that. And there we have a, not too bad. We did get some places that are really nice. If you put this, if you were to collage this over something, using that and making it kind of clear with the either the glue you use or with Daddy Vans, I think they use to make the stuff clear. I haven't done that one yet, but you could get some really neat patterns of ripples of sparkly stuff. Okay, let's see if we have anything under this. Sometimes the stencil will pick up everything. We have a little bit, and we'll see if we can take that off. Let's use another piece of the lovely tracing paper. Now when you're taking off a big whole plate of tracing paper or deli paper or whatever you get, sometimes you get these wrinkles in the middle. And some people like those and some people don't. And you just have to work around it if you can. You see I'm getting some bubbles. I'm chasing through it. They were over here, so I get rid of those over here so that I can make sure over here gets attached to the plate. And let's see if there's anything there. And I don't really like that, but it could be used for something maybe. But we have some interesting bits if we want to continue printing, which I'm going to try again. But this time I'm going to put the red down first. Let's see if we've got some in this one. I'm going to try the same exact thing, only with red first. I got a little blue piece of paper over here trying to get against it. Look at that. Bad guy. We're going to get weird, interesting things, though, because we do have all that junk underneath of it left over from the previous one, so we'll have some interesting stuff there. I'll roll off a little bit of this excess. Man, all my stuff's getting in the way. Excess paint. Take a little more off of this because it's got way more than it needs. Okay. Okay, so What do we want to use to make a pattern on that? I didn't bring anything over with me, so we'll just use a little cap that I have here. That's just to add interest to any of the parts that would come up plain red. I don't know. It doesn't really matter one way or the other if you have plain red or not. I just like to have a little pattern to the initial layer. And since the lid was there, it's like serendipity. It's supposed to be used. Yeah. I'm occasionally wiping it off on my paper over here so that I can pick up more paint, because when it gets too caked with paint, when I'm slapping this back down on the next spot, it's just simply putting down the paint that I picked up the previous time. And I can do a little swirly with it and get a little different stuff. Have more space for the blue to get in there. See how I'm doing that? I'm giving it a little tiny twist, which moves it a little bit. I'll do that over here a little bit too. I think I did a little bit, but not much. Basically, I'm waiting for this to dry. Again, first layer dry. And we don't pick up the first layer. You can pick up the first layer, but if you pick up the first layer, I mean, you won't have very much red on there. We want some red on there because the red's really pretty. Okay, that looks very contrived right there, so we'll do a little more. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Tried to suction cup itself to the plate. Oh well. Silliness. I know you're all saying, oh, over there, you need one over there. Nope, there. Right, good girl. Oh, right there. Yep, right there. Okay, so you're not saying that. I would be if I was watching a video like this. And it's starting to dry enough. That looks pretty, doesn't it? Okay, we'll fan it a little bit, get it a little more dry. It's the hard part about doing it as a video, because you can't, well, you can wait for it to dry, but everybody's like, come on, get on with the show. Who wants to sit there and wait for it to dry? I'm not really that good at editing videos yet, so I might, you might have to watch more of this than you want to. Okay, it's not dry. I'm going to just pick up the excess. Let's see if we can do this. Haha, now it'll be dry. Picked up most of the excess paint. There's still some that's excess, but it's dry enough that I'm going to try it. There's my blue. I rolled my brayer off over here so that my brayer's actually dry of the red. You know why that's so pretty together? Because they're contrasting colors. It's almost a red-orange. Not quite. It's still a little bit red-red. But the turquoise blue is almost opposite of a red-orange. So that would be pretty. There we go. Now what do we do next? Why, you guessed it. We put our stencil on there and pick up a little bit. So let's get our stencil. Our stencil, which looks great, by the way, right now. Look at that. That is beautiful. And I know I could use the other side, but why? Why not use this side? And since I don't like this one, I'm going to use him to pick it up. I will try to put it down in a similar spot, so if it comes up nice, it will come up. It will look pretty on this one. Oh, you know what? I wasn't supposed to pick it up with the tissue paper. I was supposed to pick it up with regular paper, so I didn't get too much of it. Oh well, life's how it works. You forget what you're supposed to be doing, but this ought to work okay anyway. Just trying to get all those little baby things to look like little completed little drips. Maybe I can use them for something else. Sometimes I fussy cut out stuff. Use it on. Fussy cut just means that you go around it with your scissors. Ooh, you know what? That one's kind of nice. Look at that. So I win. Yay! But we don't have much red in there, so it might not be that good. Okay, we take this off. And we'll put down, yeah, there's still a lot of red there. It just didn't look like it. Then we'll put down our gold as soon as that red dries a little bit. I mean, blue dries a little bit. Actually, that's kind of neat. I'm going to go put that on my drying rack. My drying rack is actually my floor. I have newsprint on my floor so that it doesn't get any floor dirt. Okay, and it looks like well, can't tell on a finger that's already got blue on it, can you? Let's try that one. Oops, definitely not dry. So we'll have to give it the old fan again. Got 3 minutes for our half an hour. So gotta be fast about this. Dry, you, dry. Okay, good enough. If it's not dry, it's not dry. I'm not going to worry about it. What am I going to do about it anyway? Okay, so we'll put a little bit of this down. Trying to make it into a nice, even, thin layer. Thin layers are beautiful, kind of like glazes. And that looks pretty good. You know, if it only picks up as beautifully as it looks. We take our stencil and turn it upside down to what it was. And we're going to use a new piece of tracing paper. Let's see if we can pick up all that goody, yummy stuff that's in there. That's it. Just need a little bit of something to sit on those corners so that it doesn't roll up. Trying to get these points so that they look pointy instead of like a little blob. Blobs are not pretty. Pointies are pretty. I did show you the other one that I did with the rounded lines. They worked out pretty well. Let's see what this looks like. because I have 15 seconds. And there we have it. Look at that. I declare that beautiful. Do you like it? I hope so. I'm going to put that on my drying rack and then pick up a little more with another piece of tracing paper. This time I'm pressing down really hard to try to get all of that little ink that was left at the edge of all the paint that was left at the edges of any of these things to come up, so they'll have little gold lines, if nothing else. So if you have questions, just leave me a question, leave me a comment, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe, you know, all that normal stuff that people say. Do this, do that. Not too bad. The pink, the red, and the blue mixed a little bit in some places, so we got some purpley looking stuff in some of that. See, like there? And over there. Kind of neat. That looks neat, though. Should just take a picture of that. So, I'll take this off. And we've got a little bit left on the plate. Oh, look at this. I want to see something pretty. Look at that. Yeah, that's coming out the colors. Isn't that pretty? Too bad you can't get that. Cannot be gotten. I don't really think there's anything that's going to come up off that plate. So maybe I'll just leave it there and try it again. What do you think?